Had it lasted one more year, I swear to you, Russell and I would both have been on that show. I don't want to chase anyone away.
Exactly.
I want people to watch my show so they'll make another series and I can feed my kids.
The show has changed, Doctor Who. I mean, with the massive set for the TARDIS. I think you take issue a little bit with that, don't you?
A cool young geezer, dating all the supermodels. At the same time, he sometimes talked to you like he was your dad. I'm wrestling at the moment with the final act of a new pilot I'm writing.
When Doctor Who came off the air, was there a disappointment there, or did you think, well, maybe this is right?
There was never a second that I wasn't working. It was exhausting.
What do you think is going to happen with Doctor Who? Can you see a good future for it? Or is it perhaps not going to come back? Hello everyone, and welcome to the Peter Purves podcast. My guest today is best known for his work as the second showrunner and head writer of the 2005 revival of the BBC sci-fi television series Doctor Who, and for co-creating and co-writing the BBC crime drama television series Sherlock. His writing career has been nothing short of phenomenal, and for his services to drama, he has been awarded an OBE in 2015. He is the brilliant Steven Moffat. Steven, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure.
It's a great pleasure for me because all my podcasts so far have been done with people that I know quite well, and our careers have crossed each other. I only know you peripherally, and I've only really had a proper chat with you once. I knew who you were, but we'd never chatted before. You grew up in Paisley, Glasgow.
That's right, yeah.
Tell me what it was like growing up in Paisley in the 1960s.
I'd much prefer being an adult, I suppose I would say. I had a lovely home life, loving parents, all that. That was great. I was absolutely miserable at school, sort of fairly badly bullied for most of it. So I didn't massively enjoy that. And as I say, I much prefer being a grown up at the end of it. And obviously, just to be tedious, I was a massive Doctor Who fan. I also watched Blue Peter. And it may interest you to know that such is the effect of you growing long hair. I never realized that the long-haired guy in Blue Peter, who wasn't John Noakes, was the same guy as had been in Doctor Who. That was enough of a disguise for me.
Yes, I did grow my hair. I followed the trends a little bit. Perhaps I led them a little bit because I used to wear just shirts and flares and all the rest of it. But I enjoyed that. That was fun. You say you had a miserable time at school. Your father was a headmaster. You weren't at his school.
I was not. My sisters both went, in the end, my younger sisters, to his school, and I'd probably have been better off there, to be honest. But no, I didn't enjoy school. It might have been, actually, I had what passed for an English accent at a Scottish school. They thought I was English. They also thought I was black because I had curly hair. There you go. And they were absolutely certain I was gay. Now, I think being black, English and gay is a perfectly splendid thing to be. But as it happened, I was white, Scottish and straight. So it felt a weird thing to be bullied for.
Because your father was a teacher, after you'd been to school and you got your master's degree in English, why did you become a teacher? Because of your father?
No, I didn't want to be a teacher. I absolutely didn't want to be a teacher at all. I always wanted to be a writer. I can't remember not wanting to be a writer. That was exactly what I wanted to be. But my parents, not unreasonably, and I understand this better now as a parent myself, when I was graduating from university, intent on just doing nothing at all or becoming a writer, basically becoming a writer and just creating masterpieces in my garret, they said, no, you've got to have a job. So I came home from my last university exam to an application form for Jordan Hill College of Education. So I was quite rightly marched into a job rather than lounging around being artistic.
Presumably you were teaching English.
Yes, I was.
So, I mean, you're writing. Now, you say you always wanted to be a writer, but your father actually suggested you as a writer for a new series when you
Yes.
were quite a young man in your mid-20s. Tell me
right.
about that, because that led to something called Press Gang, which was about a school newspaper.
That's right. My dad was a primary school headmaster, and his school was being visited by a show called Highway. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Harry Seacombe. Yeah.
That's right. Wobbling around the place, singing at terrified children in various schools. Now, he was visiting my dad's school, and they were all singing with Harry. And my dad, primarily mindful of the fact that his son was desperate to be a writer, said to the producer of Highway, I've got a great idea for a kids' show about a junior newspaper. In fact, to correct that slightly, he didn't really have an idea for a children's TV show. What he had was an education kit he was working on based around the idea of a junior newspaper. But opportunistic as he is to this day, he just thought, that'd be a good TV show. So he pitched it to the producer of Highway, who, as producers would do in that situation, said, yeah, go away. And that was the end of the conversation. 2 or 3 years later, Sandra Hasty, the producer girlfriend of the producer of Highway, phoned up my dad and said, look, I would like to develop your idea as a children's television show. But, and this is a familiar expression to those of us who work in television, I have absolutely no money to give you. Would you allow me to develop it? And my dad said, bless him, okay, but my son's got to write it. To which she said, and quite rightly again, absolutely not. There is no chance of that happening. But seeing as I'm taking something from you, not giving you any money, tell you what I'll do. He can write a script for free, and I'll read it and tell him what's wrong with it. Meanwhile, I'll be working with a real writer on the show. So I came home one day and Dad said, you've got this opportunity to write a free television script. And said, I don't really want to write children's television, said I, the future showrunner of Doctor Who. But he said, no, do it. So I wrote a script. And as luck would have it, Sandra Hasty absolutely loved my script. She thought it was brilliant. I was very, very surprised. And so I ended up actually getting the gig and actually writing all 43 episodes of Press Gang.
Now, that is an amazing amount of writing. 43
yes,
episodes. And I mean, you're all through your career, you don't do things by halves. You do big projects. Now, that must have been a massive thing for you. And I know that you actually won a BAFTA when you were only 28, 27?
29. Before I was 30, though, so yay for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely amazing. I've read through your entire output. Well, I haven't read the output.
Don't worry, I wouldn't expect you to.
I'd still be doing it for many years probably. But you went on to, I gather that your personal life wasn't too good at the time, and that you used that in the way that you wrote. You used quite a lot of your own experiences in what was to become quite a good comedy show called Joking Apart.
That's right. I was really interested in the idea of writing a sitcom because people kept telling me how funny Press Gang was. And I loved sitcom and I loved writing comedy. I still love writing comedy. So I met a director friend of mine who worked on Press Gang, Bob Spears, introduced me to a comedy producer who said, have you got any ideas for a sitcom? And the thing is, I didn't have an idea for a sitcom, but what I did have was a divorce I was going through at the time. So I just pitched my divorce. I said, I'm sure it's very funny.
Well, it might be
So,
cathartic, though. Yeah.
yeah. It was semi-cathartic. The trouble is, here's the problem with doing that. I pitched my divorce as a sitcom. We made a pilot. About maybe a year, 2 years after that pilot, I don't know, it got commissioned as a series. And here's the problem. By that stage, I was over my divorce. I was bored of the subject, and I had to go back into it in order to write a sitcom. And then I wrote 2 series of it. I was completely fine. I was no longer miserable. I was over her. I was dating other women. And here I was digging up all this awfulness for the amusement of a tiny audience on BBC Two.
Well, it was a huge success. And one of the shows of yours, early ones that I do remember, where you worked with Dawn French. And I mean, an extremely funny lady.
How that worked was a Bob Spears again, while I was still doing Press Gang, and probably joking apart, I can't remember the timeline now, was also working with Dawn on Murder Most Horrid. He worked with both French and Saunders a lot. He also directed Absolutely Fabulous, and he directed a lot of
Yes.
Murder Most
Oh, I know.
Horrid.
It's incredibly well known.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, phenomenal guy. And he said, "Oh, come and write a Murder Most Horrid." So I went in for a meeting for the second series and ended up writing an episode per series after that. Though I think my only really good one was my first one. But, Dawn French was always so great in everything. It didn't really matter. She made them good. She
Yeah,
made
she's
them.
an extraordinarily good actress and
Oh, she's
very.
brilliant.
I remember interviewing her. In fact, the whole lot of the early alternative comedians for a radio program many years ago on Radio
Yeah.
4, trying to find out what was alternative comedy. I mean, at that time it was well, it was anything goes. But I mean, people like Aid Edmondson and Dawn, and yeah, it was a great time for comedy.
My only contact with that amazing group of people was were the 3 episodes I did of Murder Most Horrid. But I mean, I watched them all, and I loved them all. French and Saunders, fantastic. Ben Elton, all that crowd. Rick and Aid. I mean, they were just, it was an extraordinary bunch. They all professed to be completely bemused by the title of alternative comedy.
Yes, yes.
I don't think anyone ever worked out what it meant. They were just funny. The alternative
Exactly.
comedy is not funny. So how the hell's that a compliment? But they were brilliant. They were brilliant. What a golden time it was. The comics.
Indeed, a golden time for comedy, because it's hard now to laugh. I'm not. I mean, the comedy still happens. We still get good comics.
Yes,
But
we do. Yeah.
basically, it's so a lot of the things we laughed at, you can't laugh at now. I still do, but officially you can't. You've got to be very
Oh,
careful.
those things go up and down. We're just going through one phase. We'll go through another. Someone will come along and discover that you can get enormous laughs by being very, very non-PC. Look, Ricky Gervais is making a bloody
Of
career
course,
out of it.
of course.
So's Dave Chappelle. Comedy has always been like this. Even during the time you're talking about, the 1980s, the alternative comedy circuit, there was a Puritan streak in all of that. There always has been. If we weren't a bit puritanical sometimes, it wouldn't be possible to subvert that into a laugh. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Yes.
Every single one of us is a snob about something. Every single one of us is a bit
How
uptight.
dare you?
How dare you say that? It's all right when I make jokes about you, but how dare you make jokes about me? That's
Absolutely.
unfair.
Absolutely.
So I think that's always been the case, and it always seems more important and more urgent now than then. But nah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
You never found that you were restrained or constrained at any time in a route you might take?
I don't think so. I mean, contrary to what people say about the Beeb, I've never found them very strict about anything. Not at all. I've been always, they've let me away with what I was doing. I don't think I'm by nature that rebellious. And a lot of the time, when I was doing Doctor Who, and when I was doing Press Gang, and arguably when I was doing Sherlock, you're wanting a family audience. So I wasn't there to chase anyone away. I mean, really, I don't want to chase anyone away. I want
Exactly.
people to watch my show so they'll make another series and I can feed my kids. I mean, it's very simple transaction.
Let's move on a little to Doctor Who. You say you were always a fan. What was the first episode you saw you can remember?
Well, the first episode I remember reacting to, obviously not the first episode I saw. The first episode I can remember absolutely arguing with my father about, always very significant, was I said, "Where's Doctor Who? Where's Doctor Who? Was he not in it anymore?" And he said, "No, that guy with the black hair, he's Doctor Who now. You missed it last week. He's changed." And I said, "What? He's far too young to be Doctor Who," said the man who would one day cast Matt Smith. So I obviously had been a keen viewer up until that point. I remembered you and Doctor Who. I remembered William Hartnell. But the first time I remember taking the traditional stance of a Doctor Who fan was, I hate change in this series that does nothing but change. Was when what would have been Patrick Troughton's second episode.
Did your liking and love of Doctor Who ever falter? Did you find a time where I don't particularly like the way it's doing this or so on?
I'm not really like that. Once I'm there, I'm there. There was a phase when I saw the trailer for Tomb of the Cybermen when I thought this is just too frightening to watch. So I stopped watching it for a while because I was too scared, but I was still fascinated by it. So I would ask my friends what happened in Doctor Who today, and they'd say, "Oh, you'd have been okay. It wasn't that scary." Or they'd say, "Oh, it was a really scary one, not for you."
Yeah.
We graded them entirely on the basis of how scary they were. And did I ever go off it? There were times I did go through that period, I suppose, when I started to have at the back of my mind a sneaking suspicion in my later adolescence that possibly this was a slightly insane children's program I was watching, which of course is exactly what it is.
Yeah, of
and you start
course.
getting pompous about it. Think, well, I know it. I want it to be more gritty and realistic. Then you get past that. You grow up a bit and think there is absolutely nothing better in the world than a slightly insane children's program.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted me in my 30s and my 40s. None of that adult garbage. I want monsters and shouting and running. Yay!
Sounds very Steven Spielbergish, that.
Well, exactly. His entire career
Yeah.
is based on basically children's movies. And why the hell not?
Exactly.
Love it.
And aren't they good?
Yes, they're brilliant. They're brilliant. Many of the best things in the world are actually children's stories. Of course they are. Why not?
When Doctor Who came off the air, was there a disappointment there, or did you think, well, maybe this is right?
Well, I remember very clearly when that happened because by that stage I was working on Press Gang. It was getting on, so I was in my 20s. And it went off. But what happened at the end of the classic run of the original series is in the last two seasons of the original run are really, really good.
Yes.
They're really good. It absolutely was on fighting form when it got axed. And so everyone was saying, you see, nobody liked it anymore and it became rubbish. And I said, no, it's not. It's actually really good. But it somehow it got into the national consciousness that it wasn't any good anymore. It was. It actually ended on really, really well. It had its ups and downs as a show, but it was definitely on the up at the end of the original run with Sylvester and Sophie.
Did you write for it at all in those early days? You never got a look in them? No.
I'll tell you something, actually. Both in the last run of the original series, both myself and Russell T. Davies applied to be on the show. We asked to write one. Russell went as far as writing actually a script, and I just remember deciding that with Press Gang, I'd been quite a big name in children's television for a while, briefly, and I thought, right, I'm going to capitalize on this, and I'm going to apply to do a Doctor Who story. And they more or less axed it that day. 26 years and I missed it by an afternoon. It's really so cross. I thought I could have done it. So,
sickening.
How sickening, absolutely. Had season 27 happened of Doctor Who, had it lasted one more year, I swear to you, Russell and I would both have been on that show.
Yes, yeah. Paul McGann came back as a doctor. Was it 96, something like that,
Yeah.
97? And the Americans took an interest.
Yeah.
And the BBC grew an interest and brought it back in, was it 2003? With Christopher
2005
Eccles?
it hits the air, but
2005, yeah,
2003 they announced it. Yeah.
yeah. Um, at that time, you did become involved.
I think what happened was at that stage, when you get to 2003, which is when the announcement was made, Russell had had a huge hit with Queer as Folk and
Oh, yes, of course.
yeah, and with The Second Coming. He was absolutely number one name in British television drama. He was top of the tree, and the BBC wanted to lure him over from Channel 4 to the BBC, and they said, what do you want? What do you want? And he basically said, I hope I'm not misquoting him, I'll come over to the BBC if you let me do Doctor Who.
Wow.
They said, okay. So they resurrected Doctor Who with Russell in charge. Brilliant idea. The moment I heard he'd got the job, I got his email address, because I didn't really know, and I'd met him once, I think. Emailed him, and didn't do anything as egregious as ask for a job. I just made sure he had my email address and said, if congratulations, I'm sure you'll do a brilliant job. Very best of luck. I'm really looking forward to it, or something like that. And he emailed straight back saying, if it goes to more than 6 episodes, I'll be asking you to write one, which I thought maybe at the time was possibly him just being polite. But in December of that year, my agent phoned up and said they want you to do a 2-part Doctor Who, and I was, even at that late stage and quite an established writer, I was thrilled to my socks. I was absolutely delighted.
Well, the number of episodes that eventually you went on to write and get nominated for all sorts of awards is really quite remarkable. You were nominated over 40 times for the major awards, BAFTAs, Screenwriters Guild, Primetime Emmys and everything, and you won 15 of them. My goodness.
Well, listen, I don't mean to be picky, but I've got way more than 15.
Maybe I haven't got right up to date with it.
No, it's all right, mate. It's okay. I'm just boasting randomly. I've got I've got a couple of Emmys, 5 BAFTAs, 5 Royal Television Society Awards, couple of screenwriters. I've forgotten them all now, but I've got British Comedy Award. I've done well on the award shelf business. Yes,
you certainly have. I mean, as a Doctor Who fan, it must be perhaps one of the most gratifying things you can do to be writing for the show that you love.
Of course it is. Yes, it's an absolute thrill. It never became other than a thrill. Very few people, hardly anyone in the history of the human race, got the exact job that they wanted when they were 8 years old.
Yes.
And then made a success of it. If you add to that, at the same time I was doing my other childhood obsession, which was Sherlock Holmes, then yes, of course, I was unbelievably blessed. I do know that. I think about it every morning.
Tell me about the interest in Sherlock Holmes, because I think you were really a creator of that, weren't you? A co-creator?
Yes, it was me and Mark Gatiss. Yes, that was.
Yeah. How did the relationship between you work? Had you worked with Mark before?
Not really. Everything comes back to Doctor Who in my life. Everything. Okay, so Mark and I had bumped into each other a lot in television circles because we were both working on comedy. And he and I were big Doctor Who fans, and we always talked about they should bring Doctor Who back. I knew that. Then when the show came back, we were both on it. We were both writing episodes. And because we'd become, by that stage, pretty good friends, we'd always try and arrange to travel together to Cardiff on the train. But we realized at a certain point, as the show became a huge hit, that every time people saw us, particularly him, because he was very well known, they would start trying to listen to our conversations about Doctor Who. We can't talk about Doctor Who because it's all very secret. So we decided to talk about Sherlock Holmes instead. That would confuse them all. And we admitted to each other that the version of Sherlock Holmes, the film version of Sherlock Holmes, we liked the best were the Basil Rathbone movies that were that were updated to the 1940s, that were set in the modern day. And what we'd say to each other was someone is going to do that again. Someone is going to update Sherlock Holmes again, and we'll be so cross because it's not us. And one day when I went home after one of those Doctor Who meetings and one of those train conversations with Mark, and I told my wife, yeah, Mark and I were talking about it again. Sherlock Holmes, someone should update Sherlock Holmes, and we'll be so cross because it should have been us. And my wife, who of course is a massively successful TV producer, said,
Indeed, as was her mother, I believe, Beryl Virtue, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
She said, well, why don't you and Mark just do it? So she first of all, she got us a room. She literally got us a room. Said, go into that room and discuss Sherlock Holmes and what you do with it in the modern day. So we sat in a room and discussed it. And then she took us to lunch and we pitched her Sherlock Holmes as a modern detective. And she said, that sounds brilliant. We went to the BBC, instant commission, like that. I mean, just like that. And we walked out the door, and as Mark and I were waiting at the lift, slightly bemused that we were suddenly now working on Sherlock as well, I said, by the way, I'm also taking over Doctor Who from Russell. He said, so, wow. And he mentioned all the things he was doing. And I said, it's okay, Mark, it's okay. We can rest when we retire. It was in the same moment. Sherlock Holmes as a series came about for me at the exact same time as I took over from Russell running Doctor Who.
That is
so it
fantastic.
was an amazing time. Never had a day off, but it was great.
You're a workaholic, really, aren't you?
I'm not. I'm a lazy bastard. No,
Are you?
No,
I don't believe that.
No. I have a lot of work to do. I do a lot of work, but I'm great at indolence. I can fritter a day away without a shred of shame or guilt. I've got no problem with it at all. Yeah. I have enthusiasms for things I want to do, so I go and do them. But no, I'm fundamentally at war with my own lethargy and apathy every second. I have to negotiate with myself. I say, okay, if I go and write 2 pages, I can have a bar of chocolate. You know, I have to. I have to lure myself through the day with treats, because sitting down and working, I don't like that.
Was writing a chore for you? I mean, you said you always wanted to be a writer, but
I do want to be a writer, and the best thing about being a writer is having written. That's great. When you get it done, I mean, it's very exciting. The actual process of writing, I don't want to make one of these boring writers who just always complains about their job, but it's very hard. I get very stuck sometimes. I'm wrestling at the moment with the final act of a new pilot I'm writing. And it's steep, weary work. I don't know how to get through it. It's just tough. So I love it. I love the world of it. I love having written. I love the shows I've made. The actual business of getting words on the paper and trying to think of what's the most interesting thing to happen next. How do I make this funny? How do I make this exciting? I mean, but everyone gets that in whatever line of work they're in. Everyone hits the day you think, I don't know how to fix this.
When you took over as being showrunner for Doctor Who, was the organisational life more in keeping with what you liked?
Well, it's both better and not. I mean, at one level, it was one of the most exciting years of my life, 2010, setting up and doing Sherlock, setting up and doing Doctor Who at the same time, both shows going out, both shows being a massive hit. In one level, that was one of the most exciting periods of my life. Casting Matt Smith, casting Benedict Cumberbatch, casting Karen Gillan, casting Martin Freeman, lives changing all around me.
I've got to say, brilliant casting. I mean, what wonderful decisions you made there.
Well, yeah, with the help of brilliant casting directors.
It's interesting because I think Matt Smith was the nearest Doctor ever to come back to be like Bill Hartnell. Obviously, they're totally different people, but there was a good feel about Matt Smith. I felt he was a reincarnation, a younger reincarnation of Bill Hartnell.
Well, I think possibly one of the things that happened with Matt is Matt was very, very aware when he was cast that he was the youngest ever. He was 26. was
Yeah.
26.
Yeah.
And but what he felt, he watched all the old Doctor Who's. He hadn't really known Doctor Who before he was offered the part.
Uh-huh.
He dived in, he watched all the old ones. And I think he was always at pains to say, only his skin is young. He's an old boffin. That's what he is.
Yeah.
He is an absent-minded professor. I mean, the eyes are old. Now, there is an element, by the way, to Matt Smith that is a bit like that. He's a bit, in person, there's something always, despite the fact he's or was in those days, a cool young geezer, dating all the supermodels. At the same time, he sometimes talked to you like he was your dad. I remember him looking when we were working Doctor Who or promoting Doctor Who for the first time. It was around the time that the iPad first came out. He and I were in a car and we went past a poster for the iPad, and someone was leaning back in the poster looking at their iPad, and Matt said, "It's just a computer for lazy people." And, oh God, what are you going to be like when you're old, mate? If you're like this now. I always say the same thing about Doctor Who. You can cast him old or young, that's fine. But if he's an old Doctor, he's got to be young on the inside. And if he's a young Doctor, he's got to be old on the inside. Like Peter Capaldi is an old look. In fact, he's technically the oldest. But he could project a kind of youth at times, a kind of impishness, a kind of silliness, whereas Matt is the inverse. So it always has to be William Hartnell. He tends to be misremembered as the grumpy old one. In fact, quite a lot of his Doctor Who is like a sort of overgrown schoolboy chopping away.
And he had a great sense of humour.
Yeah,
he really did.
But yes, that was one of the most exciting periods of my life. It was extraordinary. It was exhausting. There was never a second that I wasn't working. To this day, I work every weekend anyway, because I got so into the habit that I can't quite break it. You just work all the time. And the feeling of pressure as time ticked away to the broadcast of my first series of Doctor Who with Matt, in the knowledge that immediately that went out, my first series of Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch would go out immediately after it in the year. And I remember thinking, I could screw up so badly if this... I was sitting on the train once saying to my wife on the phone, I said, look, all I've got to do is shoot Daniel Craig in the face and I'll have ended all popular British culture. It doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Fortunately it did, but the pressure was on. The pressure was on.
Real fear?
Real fear, absolute terror. And at the point when you just don't know, I remember I thought our version of Doctor Who was good. And I remember on the day we were going to put out the show, not broadcast it, but show it to the press. I remember I was really unhappy with an effect shot, the age-old story of Doctor Who. The effects are looking a bit wobbly. And I said, we've got to put camera shake on that shot. We've got to find time to get camera shake so we can't see the dodgy effect too clearly. It's the story of my life for the next few years. I said, they'll never notice if we shake it about a bit. And we did that. But we were in the edit on the day of showing it to the press. Terrifying.
Well, the show has changed, Doctor Who. I mean, with the massive set for the TARDIS. I think you take issue a little bit with that, don't you?
Well, I don't know. My worry was I had 2 TARDIS sets in my time. And I remember that on the second one, being very specific about one thing, when Michael Pickwood did what I thought was the best TARDIS set of the modern era, was I said, for goodness sake, let's get rid of that dead space between the doors and the console, because I'm tired of writing 4 extra lines while Doctor Who runs to the takeoff lever. So we found a way just to get rid of that dead space. And I saw the new one, which I thought looked beautiful, but I said, yeah, but you're never not going to be able to run. Yeah, because you have to get there and you don't want to say, anyway, let's take off. Nearly there, nearly there. That was always my problem. It looks amazing. It does look.
It is extraordinary.
It's a return to the aesthetic of the original, the beautiful white original, which I think was probably a smart move. So
Yeah.
my only problem was scene choreography. Just it can be a damn bore if people have to walk all the way to the door.
Exactly. Yeah. I've got to say, when I came down to Cardiff to do the 60th anniversary vignettes in a composite TARDIS set, which
Yes.
I thought really was quite extraordinary. It really worked. It was great to work in, and it was great. It had the right feel, even though it wasn't the TARDIS that my character played in All Maureen O'Brien. We loved it. And it was I thought that was an extraordinary thing to be able to do. And of course, it worked with all the companions. It was a very clever idea. What did you rate it as? Did you like that?
I thought it was really good. That was Russell back in charge, but I thought it looked really good. Yeah.
I do want to talk a little bit about you've written stuff for the stage as well.
The Unfriend, yes.
Yes. And that did pretty well. I mean, you opened in Chichester and then came into the West End. Do you have plans to write more for the theatre?
I loved my one excursion, because that's originally what I wanted to do when I was young. I wanted to write for the theatre. I managed to do it by the age of 60. I set myself the challenge of writing a play in 15 days. It actually took me 17. And so just so that I would have done something different. And I loved doing it. I loved it. You couldn't get me out of the theatre. I loved going there and listening to the laughter.
Yes.
I just thought there's a building in the West End of London with my name on the front, and inside it's full of people laughing at my jokes. I wanted to move in. It was so fun.
No, that's a lovely...
Yes, I'd like to do it again.
We have talked about this actually when we were at Utopia. What do you think is going to happen with Doctor Who? The BBC now puts everything out to tender. There's very little that they do themselves. Can you see a good future for it? Or is it perhaps not going to come back?
Oh, no, it's going to come back. Yeah, there are already people lining themselves up to try and get the show. The timing of it, I'm not sure. And I really genuinely would not wish to rush anyone, because when you do your first run of Doctor Who, you need time to get everything in place, everything lined up. Who's your doctor going to be? Who are your writers going to be? Where are you going to make it? There's so much to decide. So there might be a blank year there. But do I think it'll come back? I know it will. It'll be absolutely fine. Yeah, it's a monster of a show. It really is. It'll be back, and it'll be different, and it'll be new people. And what's interesting about that, I think, why I think Doctor Who constantly survives, despite endless predictions of its death, endless predictions, or in the middle of yet another whirlpool of death predictions. You think, heaven's sake, how many times do you need to be wrong? The thing that makes Doctor Who special is, while it's an ancient show, it is an ancient show. It's a very, very old show. Every piece of it has been renewed.
Yes.
It is an old thing made out of entirely new material. It's always a new TARDIS. It's always a new Doctor. It's always a new companion. So it has the benefit of mythological status and great age, alongside the fact it's all sparkly and brand new. It's old and new at the same time. And if you can get that, that's amazing. So the constant churn of Doctor Who, the constant new people coming in and taking it their way, that's why it works. That's what's magic about it.
Yeah. That's a lovely way for us to end today's chat. This has been fascinating, Stephen. Maybe we can do it again in the future, but sure. I really do thank you very much for your time.
No problem at all, mate. Pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Well, that was an absolute treat for me, and I trust you enjoyed it as much as I did. The Peter Purves podcast is co-produced by me and Mikey Smith. I welcome all your comments, and thanks to all my Patreons for their support. I look forward to joining you again with another amazing guest in due course. Until then, adieu.